What are things that I need to get in line as a business owner so that I can have a show that's actually people are going to listen to? What can I do?
The first thing that you really need to do is figure out what is your goal with the show and who is your perfect listener. Like, why is that person the person that you need listening to your show? So check number 3 is to get all of your assets in place, the title, the URL, the podcast artwork, all of those things, so that it attracts that avatar. And then step 4 is going to be a strong launch plan. And then step 5 may be also step 0. It's consistency. And one helpful tip that can make sure that you do that is recording more content than you need to produce.
Today, we're joined by a realtor turned podcast digital agency owner. You can find out everything at growyourshow.com. You can listen to the podcast on podcasting, wherever podcasts are found. We're talking podcasting today, if you hadn't guessed it. And we're talking with none other than the one and only Adam Adams. Welcome.
What's up, Mark? Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Adam, yeah, me too, Adam. And just to give everyone a little bit of context, Adam and I have been trying to connect for, I don't know, 6 months or so now. And it's funny, Adam, I get hit up with tons of people that want to be on the After Hours Entrepreneur, right? And a lot of times I just want to wait to see if someone's for real. And I love what you're building at growyourshow.com. It's super impressive. And correct me if I'm wrong, you're up to almost 30 employees for your podcast production company now, yeah?
Yeah, we crossed 30 just a couple of weeks ago. So it's kind of crazy to be able to try to manage all of the employees, not just people's podcasts.
Yeah, no kidding. I had a Halataha on the show, and again, digital media agency. She's got 40 employees looking to bring on more. It's tough. It's tough. I'm at 6 employees now, 6 team members, and even that is tough. It's like wrangling cats to an extent. But I want to ask you, because it's like a good problem to have in this scalable growth. At what point, Adam, in your process, did you recognize I've got something here? We've got something. It's working. I want to go all in. At what point in your podcast agency life did that happen?
It has to be a mastermind that I'm a part of. It's a mastermind called Leadership Boardroom. Shout out to the people that run that. They do a really good job. But when I was there, I've been doing real estate investing since 2005, and really the focus that I always identified with, since I've been doing that for so long in my life, was being an investor. And at this event, at this mastermind, people just kept talking to me about podcasting. They're like, hey, I heard you helped this one guy get to the top 1%. Hey, this one person said that you manage his entire back office. Hey, and the coach, the leader, end up coming up to me and just saying, Adam, I don't know why you don't just have a podcast agency. So that's really where it started. I was serving a lot of people that are members of like Leadership Boardroom, Family Office, and some other really cool masterminds, Collective Genius, and all of their like leaders are always like, nobody can do what you can do. You've got to help my members. How do I be an affiliate with you? And that's really where it started. And I decided that I will go ahead and start doing it in the end of 2019. It was July of 2019. So it's been just a little over 2 years. So
brilliant. Congratulations. And I think that the best businesses are grown out of necessity. People say, I need more Adam Adams in my life. I need more podcasting in my life. You know where to go. You can find Adam Adams at growyourshow.com. I want to talk a little bit about your demographic. I want to learn a little bit more about your business, the business of podcast production. So let me start by asking this. The majority of clients you work with, what is their profession? What's the purpose of being in podcasting, period?
Every one of our clients wants to make money with their podcast. Mm-hmm. Very small amount. I'm talking even less than 10%. Want to make that money through selling advertising and affiliate relationships. But there are a few. There's probably 5 or 6 people that that are our members, our clients, and their goal is simply, I want the highest amount of like downloads so that I can have a better CPM, cost per 1,000 downloads. But the majority are some type of coach, mentor, or consultant. Almost everybody else gets paid high dollar. We're generally talking their ticket price is $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 or $60,000 per one client, and it either is paid up front or it's paid over the course of a year or so. We have had 4 attorneys that have worked with us, and some of them stating that they're netting another $23,000 a month ever since, starting to work with us. And there are some life coaches. There's many business coaches. There's some real estate coaches and mentors. There's a few people that sell like real estate investing courses. And a reason why there's such a high percentage of people that work with us that are in real estate is because I did have a real estate podcast and a real estate conference that I hosted every year. And so I have made a lot of connections with the real estate investing area. But just in case your listener is wondering, I have to say this at least one time. I am thrilled and excited when we have more life coaches, entrepreneurs, people selling their books, and it's not in the real estate space. I'm happy to work with more real estate people, but it is more of a challenge because they all seem to have a very similar avatar, and we have to, it's our job to grow their podcast and get them in front of more people. And because we have like 20 plus clients that are in real estate already, it's starting to become like a real big challenge to find them all a new audience. But
so
that's generally who we work with. Go ahead.
So I want to go into this because this is a really interesting topic, I think, because as I'm building out my digital media agency, you kind of find that a similar type of client is attracted to you, right? That's because you're doing your job correctly. You're putting out the right vibes, you're putting out the right content, and you're attracting the right audience. And it strikes me as I've been kind of watching you from afar that realtors need to have podcasts. I just think that if you're a realtor, you need to have a show. It builds know, like, and trust. It helps you stay top of mind. It helps you deliver valuable information to your clients or potential clients. It lets people know that you're for real, right? One of the advantages that I could see of working with a lot of people in the same niche, a lot of realtors, is you get super comfortable with the avatar. It seems like it would make the launch process much smoother. Am I missing the mark here on my assessment?
There is only a small difference of just understanding between us. And the fact is that only a couple of our clients are actual realtors. Now, realtor is going to mean that they're an agent that represents either buyers, sellers, or both, so that they can facilitate in those transactions. And for the most part, most realtors, unless they're a member of a group that's more nationwide, they are going to be more focused on one geographic, like Atlanta, for example. They're only going to work in Atlanta. So having realtors needing a podcast, I wouldn't like recommend it. I wouldn't sit here and say that in general, every realtor has to have one, but our main client seems to be a real estate investor. So they're not licensed. They don't represent any buyers or sellers. Their goals are to purchase more properties that can pay them dividends with other people's money, because in general, they've run out of their own money, or they're coaches and mentors within the real estate space. So we definitely have 2 clients that are realtors, but one of them makes most of his money because he teaches people the art of persuasion and how to talk to buyers, how to talk to sellers. Right. And so it's less about like his realtor business, even though he is a licensed broker, but more about his coaching program that he has built around it. And the other one, there are a couple of women, the Fisher sisters. they are doing the same thing. They've never, they have not yet launched their program, but we're working together as they're launching their podcast with the thought in mind that they are going to do more coaching and mentorship and online courses and one-on-one things. But just to brief it back, most of our clients are investors, and they're looking to attract capital like that they can buy more deals with. And for the most part, that's geographically agnostic. Like, people don't usually care too much where you are. They just want to invest their money.
Right. They just want the return. Okay, interesting, because it's something I've been certainly thinking about. And I mean, I guess I could kind of back up what I said just a little bit. Does everybody need a podcast? No, not necessarily. But if you're not investing the time, energy, and money into showing up online on this thing called the smartphone, you're just not going to exist. And that's one of the reasons. Well, and that's one of the reasons I love podcasting, is it can kind of be the core, like as Gary Vee calls it, the anchor content. It's this big piece of content which can be repurposed into a lot of different ways to you can create that sense of you're everywhere all the time, speaking truth and knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that you also mentioned, Adam, is that basically everyone that works with you at growyourshow.com, basically everyone that's working with you, they want to make money, right? Coaches, investors, they want to make money. And that means that you have the burden not just to make them money, but show them how you're making money. When you talk about, cost of acquisition, right? I launch a podcast, I land a client a month later, and I'm making $60,000 off that client. It can sometimes be hard to correlate that with the podcast. How do you actually show quantifiably to your client that it's the podcast that's bringing you the buck? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think that's always going to be a challenge. It's always going to be hard to pinpoint where things come from. And I'm famous for saying this thing called the three pillars of influence, because it's really about the collection of the things that you do that is going to help you to be able to get to that level and to make all of that money. And unfortunately, the pillars of influence, one of the pillars is, and you think of it like a three-legged stool, right, that you're sitting on. You'll fall over if you don't have all three of them. But one of them is a thought leadership platform. And that thought leadership platform can be, it could be a book, it could be a podcast. There's a lot of options for what your thought leadership platform is. Secondarily, it's what you're doing in person. And this can include like Zoom in-person meetings. This can include having a storefront. It can include running a meetup group or hosting some type of conference. Whatever it is, you need to meet in person with those people that you're going to be doing business with face-to-face. There's a lot that can be said about that. And the third one is your social media presence. You mentioned Gary Vee a moment ago. Gary Vee says if you're not active on social media by 2022, you will lose the game. And he's been saying this since 2015 that I remember, since I've been following him. And I've had several friends that literally lost in their business in 2018 because the people that should have been doing business with them because they were amazing, they were effective, they had experience, the people that should be working with them started working with podcasters. People that had a podcast had influence. So when we talk about these three different layers, it's like they are combined going to make or break what you do. And so I can't really say it's just the podcast, because I truly believe you've got to be doing all three. You've got to be meeting people in person. You have to be, the thought leadership platform does this. It helps people talk about you even when you're not in the room. So for example, even me just saying that on your show right now, that a thought leadership has one thing that it needs, and it is to have your followers talk about you when you're not in the room. That was an easily explainable thing that others can attach themselves to and say, dude, if you don't have a thought leadership platform, you're going to lose. You've got to listen to this podcast that I just heard right now. Same thing with Gary Vee. If you're not active on social by 2022, you're going to lose the game. Those things are things that we can attach to. So back to really, truly try to answer your question. I can't say what is specific to just the podcast, but I can say that if somebody's looking at it in a more holistic way, they are going to win the game. They are going to make a lot of money. So hope that helps.
Well, and it does, right? The three pillars, just to recap this here, the three pillars that, and I agree here, is you need to have social media, you need to have thought leadership platform, you need to be meeting people in person, right? These are the three pillars. And podcasting hits all three of those pillars at the same time, right? You're developing thought leadership, you're building, if you're doing it right, you're creating social media. And really what I've been working on recently is helping basically business owners say, hey, you meet with me for 2 hours a month and your entire month worth of content is done. And I just feel like, and I don't know if you're seeing this trend, Adam, but I feel like we're moving towards this new media type of world where everyone just gets specifically catered content to them. And what you could do as a business owner is you can create your own media company within your company. I think that's kind of where we're going, where every local barbershop, real estate agency, attorney's office is going to have some sort of media person or media company within inside the organization. Is that a trend that you're seeing happening on your side when you're working with professionals, Adam?
Actually, quite a bit. You're absolutely right. I would say over the last year or two, I've seen a lot of people that resisted it for a long time, and then they realize that they're going to have to implement it. And it's usually the bigger companies, like, those giant ships where it takes a lot of power just to move it 1 degree over. They're just having the hardest time pivoting, but I'm definitely seeing them work on it right now.
Yeah, it's definitely happening, and it's happening sooner rather than later. I think a lot of things are happening sooner rather than later. I want to talk a little bit, though, Adam, about how a business owner, consultant, entrepreneur, et cetera, can start to think about the process of launching a new show. Any suggestions? If you had to give like a quick checklist, 3 to 5 different items, what are things that I need to get in line as a business owner so that I can have a show that's actually people are going to listen to? What can I do?
Yeah, I love the question. And the first thing that you really need to do is figure out what is your goal with the show and who is your perfect listener. Like, why is that person the person that you need listening to your show? If you don't start there, I believe that you'll lose the game. You'll lose out on a lot of opportunities. And unfortunately, most of the people that I know that have started podcasts, they didn't have those two things clearly outlined. And they did more of what's I call ready, fire, aim, because they're taught ready, fire, aim. Everybody's taught you need to just start and not worry about any of these other things. It's only going to hold you back. It's only going to slow you down. And so just start. And so if you're listening and you're thinking about what is that first 1 or 2 pieces of the checklist, you have to truly identify, what is my goal with the podcast? Do you have a coaching program? Do you want to sell more real estate? Do you want people to work with you so that you can create their content for them in 2 hours a month? What's your goal? Once you figure that out, then you figure out, now who do I truly need to connect with? What are they worried about? What are they thinking about? What keeps them up at night? If they went to a podcast, what would they search for? What would be the title that they looked for? Is that title already available, or can I own it? Can I buy it? Can I start that URL? Now you're starting to work backwards. I call it reverse engineering, but the real true engineers get mad at me. They say there's no such thing as reverse engineering. It's just engineering. At any rate, if you got to figure out your goals, then you got to figure out who you're working toward. Once you've done that, I would really like you to get your artwork so that it focuses on that. So I call these assets. So check number 3 is to get all of your assets in place: the title, the URL, the podcast artwork, all of those things, so that it attracts that avatar. And then step 4 is going to be a strong launch plan. Now, I'm talking in the first few weeks of your launch, and maybe even sustain it for 8 weeks straight. You've got to be doing all the marketing you can. If you're working with a company like ours, we do a lot of marketing in the background as well. Whatever it is, you've got to be promoting it, because here's the problem I think we're on step 4. Here's the big problem. I believed that when I was going to start a podcast, and I don't know why I felt like this, it's almost laughable. I thought to myself, you know what Apple's going to do? This is what I think Apple's going to do. Apple's going to be like, holy cow, Adams just started a podcast? Is this for real? Okay, everybody, get your britches on. We've got to figure out how we're going to promote Adam because he actually has a brand new podcast. I know that Adam comes from a place of value, so we got to just blast this out. It didn't happen. I was sorely mistaken and disappointed because I learned that I had to be the one to market it. I had to hire people to help me market it. I had to do Facebook ads. I had to tell people about the show. When I started taking matters into my own hands is the only time it started to work. But I missed that first 8 weeks that some people talk about being a time that you can actually trigger some algorithms. And so if I were you and I was starting now and I wanted to really focus on step 4, it's just to know Apple's not going to be like, oh my gosh, Barbara just started a podcast. Mark just started. We've got to stop what we're doing and make sure we promote this person. You got to do it on your own. And then step 5 may be also step 0. It's consistency. Step 5 is to keep going. And so if we could talk about that 5th step very briefly, before you even start a podcast, you've got to know that you are going to do it for at least 3 years. And when I'm talking at least 3 years, I'm not saying like just stop at 3 years. I'm saying definitely don't stop before that. And maybe if you can focus on it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to do something incredible and sustainable for your business. So be thinking ahead of time. I've got to stay consistent for at least the next 3 years. And one helpful tip that can make sure that you do that is recording more content than you need to produce. Right. And that might sound weird, but for the most of us, we're always working, we're behind the 8 ball because we're like, shit, I got to drop this interview tomorrow. I don't even have an interview. How am I going to even do this? I need to call up a friend. Should I just do on my own? And you're so stressed out because you've procrastinated that you actually pod fade. If you record more episodes, more content than you need to produce, you'll always be ahead of the game. And don't go my level. I've got 10 months of pre-recorded content. You don't need 10 months, but find some middle between the, oh crap, it's tomorrow, and the 10 months Adam Adams is doing.
Yeah, there's definitely a fine line. I think there's also some value in being trendy, right? We start talking about search, what people are searching for, what people are going to Spotify. I'm a big YouTube fan, and that's obviously big on search. So I totally agree with you, though. What I try to do is a combination. I try to get some sort of backlog of interviews, solo episodes, while also interjecting something that's new, fresh, or maybe trendy. And that's always this kind of balance that we go through. I want to know about calendars, Adam, because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. I work with a lot of new clients. I've actually got 3 shows that I'm helping launch in the next 30 days. So I've been thinking a lot because everyone wants to know exactly what's going to happen and when and whatnot. I think that it is important that you set a date. And I think that is important. Set a public date. My podcast is going to be launching live January 1st. New Year's, it's going live, right? Because otherwise you get the procrastination problem that you've been mentioning, or I can't start now because it's not perfect type of dilemma. So what are your thoughts on publicly announcing? And then what does your calendar look like leading up to the big day?
We've got a whole calendar that we create for our clients, like dates that everything needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And I'd be more than happy to share that with you, and you can use it or you can send it out or whatever. You can send a link. But these calendars really are helpful because they outline everything that needs to be done in an orderly fashion. But as far as the part of the question where we're talking about setting a date, I've found that for the majority of the clients that we work with, even though they are business focused, even though they mean what they say, it's a challenge to get a podcast out on a specific date. And we've actually had several podcast clients that get disappointed because they end up having to change the dates. So what we started doing is we started setting more of a date that was internal and not external yet. And so we outline everything that needs to get done in the next 5 weeks or 8 weeks so that we can launch. And while we do that, we don't mention anything. We haven't been mentioning anything as far as like a specific date on like social media. But here's some things that we do on social media that is still helping to build some awareness that I think would be valuable to anybody launching a podcast. For example, one thing we will do is, as we're creating like the artwork, we call this either the logo or the podcast artwork. It's an image that half the time has your face on it so that you can brand yourself, and the other half the time it doesn't have your face on it so that it can brand the show. And we'll end up having multiple different podcast artworks created for one show. Regardless, even if like we already know exactly what we want to use, we'll still create 2 or 3 or 4 different ideas. And what we'll end up doing is having our client, that's you if you're a podcaster, having you publish something on Facebook or whatever, social media you use, and basically just say, I'm starting a podcast. Here's the framework. Number 1 is like, I'm starting a podcast. Number 2 is basically, I need your help. Number 3 is basically, I'm going between these different artworks. Number 4 is clearly, this is who I'm serving. You make that as part of this post. So it's like, hey, I'm starting a podcast about podcasting. I created a few different artworks, but I'm not sure which one I like best. I was wondering if you could help me out. The listener that I'm looking for is somebody who has never started a podcast but knows they should. So you basically call out your avatar in that post. The listener I'm looking for is XYZ. Please let me know. Here's the next part that's critically important. There needs to be a call to action. So you're basically just saying, please let me know in the comments like which one you prefer. And a lot of times we'll use that artwork and we'll put a little tiny A, a tiny B, a tiny C, and a tiny D actually on the artwork that are not meant to stay forever, but more meant to make sure people don't say the top left one, because it's going to change on all the platforms. So anyway, we throw those out and everybody's saying A, and we coach our clients in order to do this as the second step, which is really beneficial for you to get even more awareness behind your podcast, although you have not yet set a date, at least a public date. And what we're asking the client to do is to comment on all of the comments. You're basically doubling the amount of comments that are happening, which we talked about triggering some algorithms on Apple earlier. This is us triggering some algorithms on social media in order to get some awareness. And so we're basically going in and saying, Mark, I saw that you liked A. That's actually my favorite as well. Is there any part of it that you don't like and you think might need to get changed? John, thank you for your feedback on B. You're the only person that likes B, so I really got to know, what are you seeing that no one else is seeing? Emily, thank you for picking C. That used to be my favorite. I'm really curious what you don't like about A. And you just keep going through, and not only are you doubling the comments, now you're tripling and then hopefully quadrupling the comments, which will do a couple of things. A, for the social media platform itself, it will literally trigger their algorithm so that they are actually saying what we wanted Apple to say. They're saying, holy cow, Emily just posted this and everybody's commenting. She's keeping people on our platform and people are engaging. Now this social media platform is split testing you against all of the other people posting that day. So now Emily, she's winning. She's getting placed in front of more of her friends and against Carla, who just got shut down because Emily's getting all that engagement. Yep. But the other benefit that we're getting from all of these people connecting is additionally it's social proof that your friends care, that the other people that follow you are engaged with you, and that your podcast matters. So that when we end up sharing that date, it's more likely to get more of a boost. But with all of that said, here's what we do about those dates. We do a few different types of posts between different names of the podcast, the different artworks of the podcast, just to get some awareness and trigger some social media algorithms. But on top of that, we will finally share the date 1 week before it goes live. And here's the things that need to be done before my team will share a date of one of our clients. A, they need to have their trailer episode recorded, edited, produced, ready to go, ready for publish. Wow. That's a trailer episode. This is a short 1 to 10 minute episode. Second thing, they need to have their day 1 episodes recorded, edited, show notes done, approved, the artwork ready to go, because episodes also have artwork as well. So we got to get all those templates ready to go. Go ahead.
Well, every episode doesn't have to have its own artwork, but you strongly recommend
get to have. Yeah,
you get to have.
You get to have. So you may as well. We do that for all of our clients. But the point is, you got to have the trailer episode already edited and show notes written, and everything that you're going to launch on day 1 needs to be edited and written. For us, on our lower clients, we are recommending at least 3 on that first day. For our higher clients, we're recommending at least 6 on that first day, and there's no extra charge for that or anything. So let's just say somebody's doing the 3. They've got to have the trailer and those 3, and they have to have 2 more weeks of episodes. That's technically 4 weeks of episodes. And if they're not approved by both the client and by my staff, if each part of that is not approved, we will not even publish the trailer yet. Because we found it gets stressful to publish the trailer and then to have people trying to change things on what the first week or the second week is. And we're still trying to be 4 weeks ahead for most of our clients. If we need to, we can move in 3 business days on something like you mentioned, Mark, that is relevant, that you want to be top of mind, that it's more of like needs to be published now. We can always push that in for our clients, but we try to be like 4 weeks ahead. So what we end up doing is all of that's recorded and approved. We'll publish the trailer episode, and we always make the launch date 7 days later. Now, sometimes the trailer gets approved after like 24 or 48 hours, and sometimes it takes 7 or 8 days because iTunes is just holding up a little bit of that. So, but as soon as it's approved,
just to confirm,
go ahead.
So you put the trailer on iTunes before you announce that the show is going live. Is that right? Am I hearing you right?
Yes. So we launched the trailer, and sometimes the trailer takes a couple of days before it's even on.
Approved, right?
Yeah, and then that's us picking a launch date. It's always a week out, and then we publish a whole bunch on the launch date, and then we keep going regularly for the next couple of weeks.
Wow. Adam giving away the whole freaking game, everybody. And, I got to say, one of the things that you pinpointed, Adam, that I think is really important and worth mentioning is engaging with your audience when they engage with you. And not just engaging and saying like thanks or giving them an emoji, but actually engaging them with another question. And, engaging with a question leads to more questions, which leads to more questions, which leads to more engagement. And one of the 3 benefits of that I don't think I heard you mention was that's what advertisers and sponsors are looking for, right? That's one of the big ones. You mentioned CPM, which is a big one, but also engagement, right?
Yeah, true. Brilliant. I never really thought of it. So now it's a tool in my arsenal. Thank you, Mark. Yeah.
Hey, listen, that's why I heard to learn. And you gave me some great tips. By the way, Adam, if someone does want to see that calendar, that seems like a great freaking lead magnet to me. How can we get that calendar from you, the podcast release calendar? How can me and the After Hours entrepreneurs get that from you?
How about I just put together a link that can be in these show notes right now, so that people can just scroll down and just click if they want to grab that.
Link below to the podcast release calendar from Adam Adams over at growyourshow.com. Adam, this has been awesome. Before I let you go, I got to get you on the overrated, underrated section.
Okay.
All right, cool. Okay, Adam, overrated, underrated show notes for your podcast.
I am going to say underrated for show notes.
Okay.
I think a lot of people don't pay enough attention to them.
There's a lot of repurposable content there. The SEO is strong, so yeah, I got you there. Putting your podcast on YouTube, overrated, underrated?
I have a biased opinion, and I don't think it really is in your best interest, Mark, because I think your YouTube channel is doing awesome. But in general, for most of our clients, I would say it's hugely overrated and almost a waste of time. No offense.
And so, when we were starting this, I said, look, there's probably some things we disagree on, and that's definitely one of them, because there's a lot of eyes on YouTube. The searchability is strong. Me and my team are playing around with it, but YouTube Shorts are a huge way of getting discovered right now. And my team puts, me and my agency, we put a large emphasis on creating vertical short videos, and YouTube and Instagram, and now Facebook. I don't know if you saw this. Facebook just had a big announcement.
Cool.
They're leaning, Facebook's going to be leaning into short form video content and reels way more hard. So anyway, that's really, listen, that could be a whole episode on the pros and cons of YouTube. But
I know that you crush it at it. I just haven't seen very many people that are very good at it. So you and I should talk.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll do lunch, and I think I'm going to be on your show here in the coming weeks too. So maybe we talk about that. All right, cool. TikTok for podcasters, overrated, underrated?
Don't know. I haven't focused on TikTok, to be honest. I've heard a lot of friends that have gotten hundreds of thousands or even multi-millions of views on one TikTok. They definitely say that they're getting like the awareness, but I don't know what it's translating into, and I haven't learned TikTok myself yet.
Adam, final question here. If you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, what do you say?
I would say, and because this is the biggest mistake that I've ever had in my life, is focusing on business success at the expense of my family. And I would have to try to find the best way to let myself know that even though you think you're going to be always the best dad, and that comes naturally, there's going to be a time in your life you need to focus on your family, and the business will be just fine. That's definitely what I would share.
The first show that I launched, Adam, was called The Awesome Dad Show. Because
cool.
I recognize how important that is. And this is actually a quick digression here. I launched the Awesome Dad Show because I knew that podcasting, digital media, like Gary Vee, we got to do it, right? And I said, I'm going to do this for 1 year. And at the end of 1 year, I'm going to figure out where I'm at. And at the end of 1 year, nobody was paying me or compensating me to teach them how to be a better father. Much like you, people were paying me to help them show up online, to grow a Facebook group, to launch a podcast. And so that's kind of how my business evolved. It's really cool to see you doing well and watch your business evolve too. It's going to be exciting to see it grow over the next decades and years to come.
Thank you.
Love it. Everyone check out Adam Adams at growyourshow.com. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching Mark Savant Media. Here we're going to help you create a better content in less time and turn that attention into income. If you love this video, you're going to love these videos here. Click the one. Me and my team specially selected this just for you. Click the link, check out the video. I'll catch you here next time on Mark Savant Media. Peace.